Good evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. This is our City of Palatka, October 22nd, 2020 City Commission meeting. At this time, we're going to have our Pledge of Allegiance and our invocation. We also have we've got most of our staff and department heads are with us via Zoom. This meeting is done according to the governor's executive order, which allows us to have our meetings by way of any type of video communications outside of what we had before. And so we're going to continue this meeting in that manner. And so will everyone please stand for the invocation and the pledge. Mr. Board, I'll ask you to lead us in the pledge. I'll lead us in the invocation. Heavenly Father, Lord, we come before you right now, thanking you for another opportunity to stand before you and to make decisions. We ask that those decisions be made according to your will, that they be made with thought and courtesy and honor, that all things are pleasing to you. But most of all, we ask right now that as this country goes through all the things that are before us, that you unify our people, that you unify this community. Lord, we ask a special blessing upon the families that have been affected by violence in this community. And right now, we're just asking you to put a hedge of protection around everyone. And also, Lord, to bring peace into this community. We ask you to bring confident ideas and also to bring understanding and empathy throughout this country. But most of all, Lord, just allow America to come together and live up to its creed. These are the blessings we ask in your darling son, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, at this time. Commissioner Borum.
Present.
Vice Mayor Brown.
Present.
Commissioner McCaskill.
Here.
Commissioner Campbell. Commissioner Campbell is with us via Zoom. And also Terrell Hill, I'm here as well. All members are present and accounted for, and we do have a quorum. At this time, we're going to move to item 2 of the agenda, which is approval of minutes. The approval of minutes. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes from the October 8th meeting?
So moved. Second.
There's a motion on the floor in a second. Is there any discussion or exceptions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Commissioner Campbell, can you hear us?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Okay, moving on to item 3 of the agenda, public recognition and presentations. For the first time, we've got public in here. And so it's good to see faces again, many of which are masked, and we're all socially distanced. So it's good to have bodies again. So again, welcome. And so now we'll move on to our Student of the Month for October 2020. Vice Mayor Brown, you're with me today. So before we start our Student of the Month presentation, Vice Mayor, you got any words for the young folks?
Please study.
Please study, the words we got today.
Please go to school. Well, get your classes whether you're at home or at school, and be the best that you can be. A saying at my school was good, better, best. Never let it rest until your good is better and your better is the best. If you keep that in mind, you'll make it.
Wonderful.
Did you intentionally skip 3A, the proclamation on World Polio Day?
I missed it. I'm getting old. So I missed it. That's where we are.
3A shows are, yeah, okay, yeah.
We'll go to proclamation on World Polio Day. Appreciate that, Mr. City Manager.
Like me to read it, Mayor?
I got it. I'll read it. And again, we've got Ms. Janet Wagner here. Ms. Wagner, are you present with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So let me read the proclamation and then I'll give you an opportunity to say a few words if you'd like.
Well, I would just like to say appreciation on behalf of the Rotary Club of Palatka that you're acknowledging World Polio Day. We appreciate that, and we'll continue to work hard to eradicate it.
Yes, ma'am. I definitely, and it's going to be a well-deserved victory. There's a lot of work done. The proclamation reads as follows. Whereas Rotary International, founded on February 23rd, 1905 in Chicago, Illinois, USA, is the world's first and one of the largest nonprofit service organizations with over 1.2 million Rotary Club members, comprised of professional and business leaders in over 35,000 clubs in 200 countries. And whereas the Rotary motto, service above self, inspires members to provide humanitarian service, encourage high ethical standards, and promote goodwill and peace in the world. And whereas in 1985, Rotary launched Polio Plus and spearheaded the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, which today includes the World Health Organization, U.S. Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, UNICEF, and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundations to immunize the children of the world against polio. Whereas polio cases have dropped by 99.9% since 1988, and the world stands on the threshold of eradicating the disease. And whereas today, Rotary has contributed more than $2.1 billion in countless volunteer hours, protecting more than 2.5 billion children in 122 countries. And whereas Rotary is working to raise an additional $50 million per year, which would be leveraged for maximum impact by an additional $100 million annually from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Whereas the efforts are providing much needed operational support, medical staff, laboratory equipment, and educational materials for health workers and parents. And whereas in addition, Rotary has played a major role in decisions by donor governments to contribute more than $10 billion to the effort. And whereas there are over 1.2 million Rotary members in more than 35,000 clubs throughout the world that sponsor service projects to address such critical issues as poverty, disease, hunger, literacy, and environment in their local communities and abroad. Now, therefore, I, Terrell Hill, mayor of the city of Palatka, Florida, together with the members of the Palatka City Commission, do hereby proclaim Wednesday, October 24th, 2020, as World Polio Day in the city of Palatka, and encourage all citizens to join myself, the officials and staff of the city of Palatka and Rotary International in the fight for a polio-free world. And with this whereof I'm here to set my hand and cause to be affixed to seal the city of Palatka, Florida, on this 22nd day of October, the year of our Lord, 2020. Is that date correct?
Twenty-second day. It's the 22nd day of October.
I entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
Second.
There's a motion on the floor and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
Questions called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Ms. Wagner, again, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, and thank Rotarians throughout this country for the work that they do. We've got a Rotarian here with today by way of City Manager Don Holmes. And so again, we definitely thank Rotary International for all the work that you do in this community and your commitment to making our community a better place.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
And also Chief Shaw, I think, is a Rotarian as well. And so again, thank you very much. Moving on to Student of the Month for October 2020. Here we go, Student of the Month. Brownie Pierce Elementary, Harley Andrews, 5th grade. CL Overturf, 6th grade center, Javian Deshaun Williams. I'm guaranteed to butcher 3 names, so if I do, somebody correct me. Again, Javian Deshaun Williams. E.H. Miller School, Trenton Wiggins. James A. Lone Elementary School, DETRON Williams. Jenkins Middle School, CEYLA Mendez. Kelly Smith Elementary School, KEYON Johnson. Mellon Elementary School, Samantha BEAHN. Moseley Elementary School, Christina Lamberti. She's in Mrs. Spell's class. Palatka High School, Brandall KEARSE. PENIEL Baptist Academy, Summer LANGSTON. Putnam Academy of Arts and Sciences, Julia Poe. Putnam Edge High School, Emery White. That concludes our awardees of Student of the Month. We also want to make sure that we give a round of applause to our educators for the work that they continually do, even under the circumstances surrounding this pandemic. And again, oftentimes they never get enough thank yous to go with the efforts that they make sure that our young people are accommodated, that they are equipped with positive mentors, and also that they are directed in the proper manner. And so again, we want to thank all of our educators from all these respective institutions, and let's give them a round of applause. The next group we want to thank are all the parents and friends who tuned in from YouTube land onto Zoom so that they can hear everything that's going on and recognize these young people, because it truly takes a village to raise a child. And so we want to thank all of our family members and our parents and our neighbors and everyone who's really invested into these young people for the work that they've done. So let's give them a round of applause as well. And lastly, to our honorees, being Student of the Month is a wonderful thing. And I always try to give a little bit back of what I learned in 3rd grade in Ms. Green's class over at Moseley. And every day we start out by saying, I am somebody. If my mind can't conceive it and my heart can believe it, I know I can achieve it because I am somebody. You guys are somebody great. We're so proud of you. We are excited that even through distance learning and pandemics, you're still taking education seriously and you're setting the standard for greatness. And so we look forward to you being the leaders of the future. And we are just overwhelmed that our young Palatkans are continuing to doing the right thing. And so again, we're proud of you. We love you for the city of Palatka, and we look forward to seeing you again as Student of the Month and also as great citizens here at Hometown Heroes. Let's give the students a round of applause. Next up is public comment. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes. No action will be taken on topics of discussion. For those who aren't available to be here in person, you can dial 386-329-0100. Again, 386-329-0100, extension 0, so that you can be heard during public comment, or you can speak during the YouTube live chat. And so you can click on the YouTube live chat and you can leave your comments there. And so if there's anyone here for public comment at this time.
Mayor, we have Lori McCarthy here for public comment in person.
Lori McCarthy, you want to come forward? Make sure you're. Just give your name and address.
Lori McCarthy, 211 Kirkland Street. Okay. 211 Kirkland Street. I live in the South Historic District of Palatka. And I'm here today to request a permit and grant for the Porch Fest this year. This would be the 3rd year for our event. It brings the community together, as well as offer opportunities for students to join in community service events. And it's also a fundraiser for Feed the Need. We were hoping is it okay if I remove my mask?
You're 6 feet away.
Okay. Thank you. I'm also a teacher at Palatka High School, and my students were so excited. So many things have been canceled, and as we've all been back at school, they're so eager to get involved in community events, and we were looking forward to this event so that they could get some community service hours. We were also hoping to do a fundraiser for our Panther Closet, which provides clothing to our students in need. And it's also an opportunity for them to, we're doing a Feed the Need, Bring Jelly thing for the community also. And it was going to give them an opportunity to practice skills such as presenting on the radio. We had a lot of activities involved for JFG, it's Jobs for Florida Graduates program that I'm involved with. So they were really looking forward to it. And I know the community is also looking forward to it. We've been successfully opening schools, attending football games, and opening bars and restaurants again. And this is an outdoor event where it's very easy to practice social distancing. I mean, that happens even before COVID. Everybody's outside, it's not a confined space. So if there's any way we can continue to grow this program for the community, I would really appreciate that. I know as a community member, I really look forward to it every year. And as a teacher, I've been handling the volunteers from the high school. They really do look forward to having that opportunity to participate in something and give back to the community. So I'm here today to request that we do get a permit this year to go ahead and have the Porch Fest and the grant that we also have requested for that. And I don't know if the camera's on me, but here's our poster for the event. And I hope it's a go because again, we're building it and we don't want to lose momentum. It grew from the first year to the second year and we were really hoping to continue that growth. And this is a great way to kind of start reopening the things that we all care about in our community that bring us together. It's an opportunity for a positive experience. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'll just address some of your comments. Where the commission has not said no to anything. Right now, we're not accepting any applications for special events. But what we are doing, we've committed to every meeting, taking a look at where we are as a community as it relates to the pandemic. We enjoy Porch Fest, but at the same time, we just want to make sure that everybody's taken care of. You know, you're aware, we see where Palatka High School, for example, had to take on a new opponent last week with Hawthorne, just because of the pandemic and the things that are happening around us. And we just want to make sure that if anything, we err on the side of caution so that all our citizens find themselves back. We want nothing more than for there to be an opportunity for everyone to be able to gather safely throughout this country. And we're going to make sure that we continue to evaluate this every time possible to get there. So we're not saying that there won't be a Porch Fest, but we may have to push it back a little bit. And at the same time, we can still have the same results. And we just look forward to it and the partnership that it comes from. So, sir, if you're going to come up, you got to come up to the mic and just give your information. Even if it's a general comment, you just got to give your name and address so we're happy for the record.
Turn your mic on the left side. On the left side, pull it back toward you.
Just give your name and address.
Alan Mitchell, District 16, Kirby Street, South Historic District.
Yes, sir.
So I just want to be clear because the date is coming up quick. And if we are not getting the permit, just tell us because you don't have a lot of time.
Mr. Russo has been well informed when he came in and made a request at the last meeting that there are no special event permits being issued at this time.
Okay.
And that we would continue to review it on a bi-monthly basis as it relates to the commission meetings. And if there's a change statistically in what's going on with COVID, if there's some change in certain standards that are in place, or even in the way that the commission determines on what we're opening up. Because last meeting, we actually started phasing in certain things. So we actually started opening facilities up at 50% capacity. So we're moving closer, unless there's a continual uptick, we're moving closer to trying to get to some semblance of normal, but we're doing so based upon making sure that we take certain precautions in place and we continually have those conversations at every meeting. And so you're like everybody else in America right now. For those people working at home, for those kids that are staying at home, we're all sitting waiting. And as time changes, we all change. So we're all adjusting. It's uncomfortable. It's not necessarily the greatest thing in the world, but I would rather take a month extra to do Porch Fest in January than to have someone die in December. And so that's just where I am. And the commission, at the end of the day, is going to vote on what it is, and they're going to review it and have a conversation about it every meeting. So that will come again at the next meeting. At this meeting, we'll have a conversation during this meeting as well.
So by the end of the meeting,
We'll have
another status update.
right, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. There's a comment I saw that came through the chat. For Student of the Month, you guys have to help me make up. For Children's Reading Center Charter School, Kaya Vincent. Kaya, we want to make sure we recognize you, and let's give Kaya a round of applause, and we apologize for. So again, congratulations, and you get all the special time to yourself right now. So again, we just want to make sure that we say thank you. Is there anyone else here for public comment? Do we have any public comment? We don't have anything on the telephone or anything else in the chat. Seeing nothing else, we're going to go ahead and close public comment at this time. And we'll move on to item 5 of the agenda, which is our consent agenda. On our consent agenda, we have items A through G. Are there any items on consent that you wish to have removed at this time?
Motion to accept items A through G.
Second.
Motion on the floor to accept the consent agenda as written. Is there any, and a second, is there any further discussion?
Question.
Questions called, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. We've got a couple special people we want to make sure we recognize at this time. Our newest member to the planning board, Caitlin Elaine Owens. And so,
Thank you so much.
congratulations.
Very excited.
Thank you for doing it.
Thank you. And our oldest member on the Palatka Board of Zoning and Appeals, who's also my former code enforcement board member, Mr. Liquor Kitchens, and former city commissioner.
I don't know about that oldest part, maybe.
Yeah.
I wanted to pick out that one.
She's a veteran. She was retired when I first got on the board. She'd been there 37 years then. Again, thank you.
Property appraiser 36 and the board about 8.
But again, thank you. Thank you for serving on the board.
Thank you,
And thank
Mayor.
you for working hard in this community.
Thank you, Linda.
So moving on to our regular business at this time, we have an appeal of the Historic Preservation Board's case number HPB 20-04, 114 South 3rd Street. The applicant is Tim Green. At this time, Mr. Mims, or are you present?
Mayor? Mr. Mayor?
Yes, your counsel.
Okay, I just want to give a brief overview to the commission before we started the appeal hearing, if that's okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. On August 25th, 2020, the Historic Preservation Board conducted a hearing concerning Mr. Green's application for a certificate of appropriateness concerning his property located at 114 South 3rd Street, which is the old Elks building, which included a request to construct an 8-foot fence along the Oak Street frontage of the property. This request solely was denied by the Historic Board The Historic Preservation Board ruled that the property owners could construct a fence along the Oak Street frontage with a maximum of height of 5 feet. City of Palatka Municipal Code, Section 5474 provides for appeal to the City Commission from the Historic Preservation Board's denials of certificate of appropriateness. And Mr. Green timely filed an appeal of this decision to the city manager. So that's why we're here this evening for this appeal. Mr. Mims will present the recommendation of the staff to the Historic Preservation Board and will give you their decision. And Mr. Green is here to present his side. I ask that both of them would be sworn in. And I also ask that Mr. Mims and Mr. Green limit their presentation to the single issue of the maximum height of the 8-foot fence along the Oak Street frontage.
Well, all parties speaking today, will you please stand and raise your right hand? Swear affirm the testimony you're about to give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I do. Thank you. You may proceed at this time. Mr. Mims.
Yes, my name is Dean Mims. I'm the interim planning director of the City of Palatka, and I wrote the staff report. As the city attorney stated, we're really talking about one issue here. There were various requests from the applicant, and they were all recommended for approval by staff and the Historic Preservation Board with one modification to one of the requests. Very attractive 8-foot fence going around the property, and the recommendation from staff was to not have that be 8 feet where it is facing the public right of way along south of 3rd Street. Based on good urbanism, basic principles of walkability, got a downtown a block away. 8 feet is generally considered a barrier, 6 feet is considered a privacy fence. 4 feet is very typical, or even less, knee walls are even less, but staff was aware of the recognition of the applicant's concerns and strong wishes for this. Recommended 5 feet, and that was a reasonable recommendation in accordance with the purview of the board and in accordance with the Secretary of Interior's guidelines regarding historic preservation districts. The city does not have specific fence height guidelines requirements for commercial districts. That is true. That we probably wouldn't be here tonight if the city did have that in its code. We do have it for certain districts, the M1 district for certain uses, swimming pools for safety, and typically in residential, most of the historic districts are residential properties. And even those that are not, there was a recent case really across the street on 3rd Street in October 1st, where the applicant went with the proposed, this was the application, they went with a very typical historic fence, black metal, 4 feet high. So the issue before us is really the height, and the issue is this property. So staff feels comfortable with this professional recommendation to the board, and the board just modified it ever so slightly. I will read the staff recommendation to the board. A little preamble. Privacy fences, this is the review, are typically 5 feet. This is in your package as well. It's on the slide and the report. Typically 6 feet in height rather than 8 feet. And the common standard, not only in Palatka, it's for non-privacy fences, 4 feet or 5 feet. I provide a defined boundary that comprises visual barriers. Visual barriers along street frontages do not support walkability in central the city, particularly in a traditional downtown area. We can attract pedestrians, which I think Palatka is trying to do. So therefore, staff recommended changing the 8-foot height to a maximum of 5 feet just for that section, parallel to the public right of way, setback about 10 or 11 feet. And with a transition from the 8-foot walls that are perpendicular to the property line. And to that, could be in steps, could be just a gradual sloping line.
So the existing walls that are on the property or on the, that are on the property line are 8 feet high?
Well, they aren't there. Actually, posts were put in at higher than 8 feet. And that sort of got the attention of staff, and sort of took a visit out there. So the only thing, no, these are
The
proposed
proposal
walls.
based on the U-shaped wall, basically being proposed in the diagram.
They're perpendicular lines. Yeah, you see the
The peak lines that are.
part of the property that goes to Oak Street. That's really what's at issue, and only the part parallel to the Oak Street frontage.
But you're okay with the 8-foot fence in all the other areas except on the Oak Street front?
Yeah, and even where one is installed on the 3rd Street frontage, that's there. That was not, staff recommended approval of that. That was right on the property line against another property.
And that's an 8-foot as well?
It is 8 feet.
So wouldn't we like uniformity if we reduce it in one section as opposed to the other?
Well, we're dealing with the fact that it was done. There was work done prior to contacting historic preservation staff or building permitting. So there was that.
One more question. When you say walkability, what do you mean?
I mean, a traditional downtown, a healthy downtown, really you look for a mix of uses. If you want to attract people to walk downtown, I would contend that probably don't walk away. At best, this high walk, 4 feet, maybe 5 feet walking is not a visual or psychological barrier. It's a psychological barrier. You're not going to cross the property line, but that's interesting. You can see what's going on there. It could be very good for business.
But that's based on 0 lot line?
No, not based on 0 lot line.
What's the setback on this one?
That's set back, I believe, about 12 or 13, no, 10 or 11 feet from the right of way.
11.5.
Thank you. And so that was the recommendation of staff. We thought it was appropriate. Historic Preservation Board, very similar in all intents and purposes, similar. I can their recommendations.
So the board and staff have any issues with the materials being used or the design of this? So
No,
they're all appropriate.
Very effective. Very effective. It's just essentially the height just for that one section.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And
Anything else?
I think I've covered the points. I don't want to belabor it.
Any questions from the commission now, Mr.
Oh, I just want to see it up on the screen there. Yeah, I wanted to see.
Proposal?
Yeah, I'm looking through the packet here. Yeah,
As Mr. Green comes
I
up,
see it, but I don't.
Mr. Grant, do you think you can possibly find that page in there that has there's a page in that has the fence itself?
I'd like to see the 8 feet
I'll tell you what
fence,
page it is.
and then what's in the front.
Yeah, you can come up with this.
It's the graphic provided by the applicant.
Yeah, I saw something in here, but I want to make sure I'm confirming what I'm seeing.
Let me walk away.
I'll get the page number.
Okay.
It's on page 4.
That's a copy of my.
Okay.
So
Is
yeah,
that the side there?
that's the side.
That's actually not there. That is superimposed. I took an image.
Right, you take it up, yeah.
Right. So what exists in the top frame is what is actually there today.
But that's what you're requesting.
Right.
Some-
Without showing landscape. This is just
Right.
to give you the dimensions of the fence. You won't be able to see the fence once it's
Let's
landscaped.
trade positions right quick. Mr. Mills?
So that's 8 feet.
Give your
correct?
name and address. Give your name and address for the record first.
Timothy Green, the property. My
You
home
get
address.
the property address.
Okay, 114 South Fence.
Okay.
The fence actually only measures 7'6", the actual top board. And generally, you lay the boards, the posts taller, so that you cut them flush against the posts along the way, so you can get a nice cosmetic look. So, all right, so let me just, if I can, I have a brief introduction. Is that okay, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so good afternoon, Commissioners, Mayor. Thank you for the opportunity to speak and my appeal. My name is Tim Green. I'm the owner of the 142 South 3rd Street property in Elmwood. As we gather today, many of you may be wondering why I'm appealing an approved COA application. Of course, most of my projects require is one 3-foot reduction of one side, like the sides, transitioning sides. On the surface, it may seem to be inflexible or just blocking the system, but actually that's furthest thing from the truth. I've been working with Mr. Mims since May of this year, and we just simply don't see eye to eye. The short answer is that the HPD's required 3-foot reduction on the Oak Street side will render the project ineffective with the intended business. This is a commercial property. And there's no lawful or logical reason for the reduction. The old house lot is a non-contributing structure in historical. It's not historical. And therefore, it does not fall under the guidelines of the Secretary of the Interior's Standards of Rehabilitation, which only deals with historical structures, not historical districts. Nevertheless, I made a considerable effort to design fences compatible with the surrounding community as well as home. With respect to the height, the commercial fence is only 2 feet tall, 2 feet taller than a standard privacy fence. So, more importantly, I preemptively and voluntarily took steps to mitigate any adverse effect of the fence on the community, genuine or perceived. Well, there was no requirement to do so. We just discussed in the 0 lot line. I set the fence back 11.5 feet back from the sidewalk. Now, if you've been through the South Historic District, most of the buildings, let alone the fences, are within, right on the lot line, or within a few feet of the water. So as far as a visual barrier, the fence is significant from the back. I further mitigated the issue by landscaping here. The section, we lost the slide. The section in front of that fence, the fence only runs 23 feet on Oak Street. It's a 12-foot by 23-foot section of grass that has fully landscaped. Yes. So this, yes. So all of the section here will be fully landscaped. So whether the fence is 5 feet or 8 feet, you're not going to see it because I'll put in native species, flowering plants, binding plants on the fence, and you've got 11.5 feet of depth on the sidewalk. It's simply irrelevant in terms of that.
So we won't see the fence. Once you do your landscape.
Once it's landscaped, you won't see the fence.
And what was discussed with Mr. Mims in
Yes.
your meeting?
Since May. So as you can see, I've incorporated a lot of compromise and accommodations in my plans from the very start. So why does Mr. Mims feel the fence needs to be 5 feet high? Well, the staff report answer is, well, the structural wall complies with the architectural and structural values of the community. He feels that an 8-foot fence is excessive, a visual barrier, injurious to the general visual character of the district, or the guiding ordinance, and then affects walkability. So the solution of reducing an 8-foot fence to a 5-foot fence when you can't see it is not a real solution if that was the real issue. So simply put, it just seems like Mr. Mims has an adverse feeling about fences in downtown and historic communities. That's his opinion, but that's not the law. So because the fence under building and zoning code is permissible, I feel Mr. Mims is trying to bend and expand the authorities of the Historic Preservation Board to include powers to regulate fence height, despite having nothing to do with historic preservation. What does that have to do with historic preservation? So let me say it as clearly as possible. Mr. Mims has persuaded the Historic Preservation Board to issue a decision to reduce my fence for reasons other than historic preservation. So I think this is unfair. And I think it's ignoring 4 important points. I think it ignores the purpose of Article 30, the scope, which is limits the HPB from exercising any control over zoning matters including fence height, unless it specifically has to do with historic preservation. Sure. Can I grab my one?
Yes, sir.
Right. I promise you.
Everybody else. Go ahead, Ron.
Are you putting a business in that building?
So.
Hold on. Nothing. Okay.
I love to answer.
Yeah. It's gotta be this one. Yeah, I think it's supposed to. Are you still on? Huh?
Thinking.
Is the other computer still on Zoom?
Yeah, you're still on YouTube.
Well, don't, or just take me off. Which one? Yeah, let's take a 5-minute break. We're having our first real technical difficulty series. Man, you should have came and saved us.
Well, we got
you did.
we got inspired on deck. Let me get that suit.
What is the meeting ID?
You can get it.
It's there.
I'm gonna run of it.
I like that one.
Thank you for being patient with our technical difficulties. And so we'll go ahead. I'm sorry, Mr. Green, you can continue at this time.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Let me recap. So what I feel has happened is that the decision by the HPV was reached in error based on 4 points. The first being that Article 3, which sets the statutes for all of the historic district board's actions, says specifically that they make a decision on COA applications, that they have no control over matters of zoning unless they deal specifically with historic preservation related matters. Secondly, ignoring a very important issue that actually came up in the map that Mr. Mims showed during his presentation, that the property actually had a building in the very spot that the fence is going, which would have been significantly taller than 8 feet and never historically posed any visual barrier or effect to walkability. I have to show that in the exhibits. Third, that his opinions regarding fences and their impact on town is okay. It's not the law. You guys have code and ordinances, and if you feel fences are not appropriate at 8 feet, you can change the code or ordinances. And finally, this hypothetical scenario, inflating residential and commercial properties, mismatching front yard standards and side yard standards about what fences is just that. It's hypothetical. It has nothing to do with the property we're discussing. So, and it's already been discussed. So today I wish to remedy the mistake. And I want to also point out, referencing back again, that it was not my lack of willingness to reach a compromise with the Historic Preservation Board. If you attended the August 25th meeting, we were reaching a compromise. Mr. Larry Beaton proposed some changes, and I was agreeable to them. In fact, he got a second by Ms. Laura Schoenberg. And in extraordinary action, Mr. Mims intervened and had the motion withdrawn because it didn't suit his needs. And so the end result was there was no compromise. Mr. Mims got his way, and the HPB had no decision but to decide against my fence. I was open to compromise. The members of the HPB, some of them appeared to be open to compromise. It was just only one person who was not. That was Mr. Mims. And so I do have some exhibits to show you. And if you want to ask a question before we tackle that, I'm open to that.
This is the only section that you were dealing with the 8 foot, and they wanted it to be 5 in the front there, right? Correct.
Well, if you don't mind, Commissioner, if I have in my packet that I handed out, do you have my exhibits? If you want to flip to that portion of it, I think the best way to look is at the fence boundary.
Okay.
So if we can go to exhibit B1. And I will look at my the second image, which is from the application boundary map, which shows Oak Street and 3rd Street. It's rather small.
The previous page, the previous slide. You're on page 15, go to page 4.
You said D1 or B1?
D is in David.
You're on 15, can you go to page 4?
3rd Street, no.
I think this is one packet right here.
Right there? Oh, okay.
If you go to
okay, I'm looking in the agenda. Okay.
He just
passed this one out.
Yeah, okay, got it.
So, just to give you, let's just start at the top. I know that your question deals with the fence boundaries. But the first portion came with the staff report. Mr. Mims provided a 1930 Sandsworn map. It shows what historically was on the property in July 1930. And small as it is, what we're looking at here is this pink building is the main portion of the Oaks Lodge. It has addition put on. And then this is Oak Street. So this corner lot is the multi-family rental unit. This orange building is no longer there, that's my lot, and this pink building is the adjacent building, which is charitable clothing outlet. The second image is the fence boundary, and again, the red line distinguishes the boundaries of the fence in question. So if you look at Oak Street, you see the gray sidewalk, the green lot, that's the roughly 12 foot by 23 foot area that will be landscaped, and the red line is this photo that you were looking at in terms of my proposed 8-foot fence. And then the final comparison map shows the boundaries of what would have been the front porch of a building. I'm sure it was at least a one-story building, taller than 8 feet tall, that falls identical to the fence line. I'd say it's off by a few feet, and probably with the porch attachment to it, probably matched up. And if you just flip quickly to D2 and D3, I took photos to show that the foundation of that house still remains parallel, about 3 feet or 3.5 feet parallel to the front of the fence. So this notion that the fence is some sort of visual barrier that is inappropriate for the historical district when there was a building there that would have been a greater visual barrier, to me doesn't make any bit of sense. Never mind what I've done to accommodate, mediating the impact.
Just so that the picture you're talking about is that one?
Yes. All right, so did that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Was there any other question regarding the fence? I just wanted to try and go on. All right, so just to go as quickly as we can, not to go away from the matter. Exhibit A is just simply the 10 points of the Secretary of Interior Standards of Rehabilitation. And I'm not going to read it to you. I would just say that if you read the wording in there, they talk specifically about historical properties. And by Mr. Mills' own account, staff report, my own research, the building is non-contributing. Does not mean it doesn't have any history behind it. It means that it does not contribute to the general history and culture of that district. So it doesn't have the requirements to adhere to every specification that the Secretary of Interior would want you to do. But in terms of fixing it, it has to look nice and appropriate for the area, which there's no concession. Mr. Mills says that's the case. Fence looks nice. Exhibit B speaks about the duties of the Historic Preservation Board. And I ask you to look at specifically number 3, which talks about what the Historic Preservation Board is supposed to do in the event that existing codes don't match up with their goals. And what they're supposed to do is participate in the adoption of existing codes, ordinances, procedures, and programs. That doesn't mean that they take it out on applicants for the COAs when the code doesn't meet with the standards that they want to have for it. So they do not create the rules. That's basically it. They advise departments that create rules for code and proclamation. Exhibit C.
Look,
Yes.
don't they have a book called the Green Book that tells, that has guidelines as to what goes on those historic districts? There's a book that I bought that that we have to go by to make sure that it stays historical. When they first started laying out these historical districts years ago, we had a thing that came up about somebody wanting to replace a fence, and they wanted to use plastic instead of the picket wood fence. And I was trying to think. Alert left out of here.
You're bringing up a very good point that I actually touch on later. I don't know your reference to the Green Book. What I can say is the standard is laid out, and it's one and the same. The standard is set by the Secretary of Interior. They may have had like a layman's name for that. It's the Green Book.
Well, I think that they called it that because they told them what kind of windows and what. Allegra, do you remember?
Yes, ma'am.
We did. Well, you were on the board then, weren't you?
No,
before you.
There's a green book, but it's not really green. They just call it that.
Yeah, but don't they tell you what can go in there? Because we had this discussion on fence.
Is it guideline or is it policy?
I believe it's
Guideline. I think it came out of Tallahassee. It's
All right,
it's
let's do this for the purposes of not being here all night. Let's stick to this script. We'll get on the green book later.
Okay, if we could, Exhibit C, this is really the most important exhibit as far as my argument from a legal standpoint. This lays out exactly what the Historic Preservation Board can make the decision based upon. Okay, it's this or nothing.
We have it in our packet.
I'm sorry?
We already have it in our packet.
Right. So, and I'm going to read it. The decision to issue or not issue a certificate shall be based on the conformance of the proposed work to the Secretary of Interior standards of rehabilitation. I simply failed to see how the fence height relates to the Secretary of Interior standards, given that the building A is not contributing, and even in terms of being in a historic district, how fence height determines whether or not something is more historical or less historical. You know, the implication of that really does not connect. And then finally, the last line of that one paragraph: the board shall not exercise any control. Shall meaning can't, and over land use, such as governed by zoning ordinances, over construction, such as governed by the building code. And then this is the caveat that I believe Mr. Mims used: unless control is within the intent and scope of the article. So in his decision to deny me my 8-foot fence, he says that the adverse effect under section B, 1, 2, and 3 would affect or injurious to the general visual character, saying that this affects walkability. Aside from the merits being weak, that really is not what they mean when they say injurious to the general visual character. The fact that someone might not like a tall fence as they like a short fence, that is not what they mean by that. What they mean is exactly what you were talking about, but I'll put it into this context. If Oak Street had all white picket fences up and down the street, and I proposed a fence that was a vinyl red plank fence instead of that, it may, well, we'll take out the vinyl. It may comply entirely with the Secretary of the Interior's guidelines. It might be historically correct in building, but it would disrupt the general visual character of the neighborhood. That's what we're talking about. Now, I've included photos of the fences that you can see on Oak Street, including Exhibit E2, which is across the street. It's a 6-foot chain link fence with about 1.5 foot of barbed wire with vines growing all over it. I don't think I'm disrupting any general character like that. I have views up and down Oak Street, including the tag agency, which is practically my neighbor, filled with cars. I don't think my fence disrupts the general visual character of that. And then if you go to Exhibit 3, you can see the various other types of fences in Oak Street, going from 4th to 3rd. In the Baptist Church, there has a 6-foot fence that just abruptly ends on a walkway, to picket fences that have no transition to a 6-foot fence. By 4-foot chain link that transition directly, or don't transition, that go to a 6-foot covered with weeds and plants and so forth. I will agree that there's not an 8-foot fence there, but there's a business reason why I chose the 8-foot fence, which is clearly laid out to Mr. Mims. And this is the proposal to avoid having to use something like barbed wire, which is ugly, which is really damaging to the general visual character of the neighborhood.
What's your business reason?
So the interior of that area is to be used for outdoor seating. And I spoke with both of my neighboring property owners. And the residential property owners are in agreement with using the 8-foot fence. It gives them substantial privacy in the area for their tenants to use. If I'm having outdoor seating, restaurant style, up until 9 in the evening, 10 in the evening, or a special event or something. And then because there's a grade to the ground, I plan to put platform decking or something which will elevate the inside. So while the exterior may be at 8 feet, the interior privacy may only be 6 feet because of the grade to the ground and the elevation of the deck. If I went with the 5-foot fence, it means potentially that people who are eating on the deck only have 4 feet of privacy or less, which is no privacy at all. Now, whether or not they want to look out onto the street, if the street was visually interesting or better, improved, I would be happy to lower the fence. But at this point in time, where the surrounding properties are not developed, overgrown, not kept, I would rather keep the privacy and have potential clientele, customers, enjoying their privacy, having a nice meal in an outdoor setting, which is badly needed in this time.
You also indicated that you landscape the area in front of it.
It will be entirely landscape. So I've already, if people have seen, this is not part of the presentation because this was not disputed. I've seen the 3rd Street view, which is the front side of my building. The landscaping, not to pat myself on the back, looks fantastic. Anyone will attest to that. I think even Mr. Mills will attest.
Anything else?
No, it's not.
Anything, Mr. Gray? Anything else?
I really don't want to go through every example, but I do want to point out that I including views of downtown Gainesville that show that they have in downtown walkable areas, this would be E5, fences that are taller than 8 feet, in restaurants, views for outdoor seating, and right on University Boulevard. E4 is, I spent just a half an hour, I could have filled 100 photos of walls, fences, and hedges, all 6, 7, 8 feet or more in walkable areas of the historic commercial areas. So again, this notion that my fence is somehow set back 11.5 feet from the sidewalk, hidden by landscaping, is going to affect adversely the general aesthetic of the neighborhood is just not one. And that's it.
Thank you. Any other questions from the commission?
And I was asking about what was gonna be there, and you said
Right.
a restaurant, right?
Right, so early on, before this pandemic really took a grip, I reached out to a specialist in restaurant real estate in St. Augustine and discussed some ideas. My wife and I are not restaurateurs, but given the circumstances, one of our ideas is actually offer the restaurant rent-free for a year to potentially a notable, respected chef who can really draw in clientele to the town. So aside from probably about $150,000 worth of renovation we have planned for the building, we'll only forego a year's worth of rent just to get some good business in the town. And it will actually lean towards hopefully someone who brings in cultural food, not just plain Jane, not that I don't like Cracker Barrel, but something a little bit better than
Don't worry, we travel, we eat out.
that. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Green.
Thank you.
Council, you got anything else?
Oh, I would like to say you, a definite promise that you will landscape it properly.
Absolutely.
Okay, if you don't, we're gonna park out there and sit your phone all night.
You can do that.
Can we cut it back down to 5 feet? You want to put you on landscape?
If you don't, property, you'll be down with the
It's
salt.
been part of the proposal.
All right, well, we appreciate it.
Okay.
Sounds like I heard the sentiment.
Well, I'll make a motion.
Second.
I make a motion to approve.
Go ahead.
I make a motion to approve the 8-foot fencing for the restaurant, provided that he does put the landscaping in that he put before the commission today.
Second.
Did you put was the landscaping plan presented to the board previously?
There's a notation, in the original application says that the front of that area would be landscaped. I didn't give specification to what, because actually Mr. Mims advised that I didn't need to do that.
That conforms.
Maybe I would suggest that you say landscape consistent with what he previously has on the property already.
That's fine.
Mr. Chairman,
Can we add, we can't do that. Can we add to that based on the standards? We can add that to it. You got something else from the council? I'm sorry, Ms. Holmes.
I just wanted to inquire about whether the chair intended to see if there's any members of the public who wanted to speak on this particular issue.
All right. Is there anyone here for public comment? Anyone here for public comment? You can dial in, you can use the YouTube chat, or you can dial 386-329-0100. If you're in the room, please come forward at this time and provide us with your comments. Seeing no public comment, seeing the phone not ring, is there anything on the chat?
No, Mayor, not at this time.
Okay, Mr. Ward, mic on.
Oh, I've already made my motion. Oh, making a motion again?
No, just make it again so we have it clear for the record.
Okay.
Right, thank you.
I make a motion to approve the 8-foot fence with the, except, I mean, with the caveat that he's gonna put the landscaping in that's, at least to the point that where he can, the fence is, even with the fence or higher, as my motion.
And that's the 8-foot fence, consistent with the image that we saw today.
Consistent with the character of what we've seen today. Correct.
Second.
Is this,
Mr. Mayor?
yes, ma'am.
We have in the planning department that there's landscaping standards. So if it could be in compliance with the standards of the city's landscaping criteria.
I said with the nature, the character of nature.
Just say the landscaping standards.
Your
motion was to include land, that be consistent with our landscape standards, right?
Landscape is to be consistent with the landscaping standards.
Okay.
Thank
There's a
you.
motion, there's a second by Commissioner McCaskill, was it?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, this is Ms. Robinson.
You have a comment? We're gonna late comment, Ms. Robinson?
Yes, sir, it just came in. It's on line 1.
They're dialing out, I closed it, but we're gonna take it. Holly, you're up.
Oh, okay, very good. Is this Don?
This is Terrell Hill. Can you give your name and address? You're
Mayor Hill, this is Bob Taylor, 710 St. John's Avenue. I wanted to speak with reference to the issue being discussed at the commission meeting.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I wanted to speak in support of the recommendation of the planning staff and had some comments relative to the facility itself. You might know that a few years ago, the district was rezoned to downtown riverfront, but it traditionally was a residential zoning. So most of the residences that are on the south side of Oak Street have virtually no fences on that street, and a high fence at that location will impact the light, air, and vision of the residents in that area. I think a lower fence would be more in keeping with the general character of the neighborhood. And I think that a 5 foot or so height is reasonable. The owner of the Elks building is contending that there's a significant slope to the property that would mandate the higher fence. I've been by there, I don't see it. I think that this would disrupt the general character of the neighborhood. I'm not in favor of supporting a motion that would allow that 8-foot fence. One last comment, residential neighborhoods have a limit to what they would do. And again, when this was rezoned as downtown riverfront, it didn't take into consideration what was already there.
Okay. Anything else from you, Mr. Taylor?
We should reconsider the motion.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
We got a motion on the floor in a second. Is there any further discussion by the commission at this time?
Question.
Questions called. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
We did this because we want to see businesses downtown, restaurants and stuff.
All right. Certainly appreciate it. Thanks for all your due diligence, sir. And thanks for your investing in our downtown community.
Thank you, staff, for working on this as well. I think the other thing for us is that we want to make sure that in this community that we limit roadblock for new businesses. And when businesses come into this community, we don't want to give away the baby with the bathwater, but we want to make sure that we continually find solutions to problems as opposed to creating additional problems. And so I'm glad that we were able to find a resolution to this issue, that we can welcome a new business owner in here. And we can look forward to building that's remained empty for a while and have had a couple of businesses come in and out of there since the Elks left. But a building that was empty actually becoming vibrant in this community. And that's one of the things that we're looking for. And we just thank the Greens for taking the opportunity to come to Palatka and start a business. So again, thanks to the commission for the consideration. Thanks to staff and council for the work that they've done on this as well. Moving the agenda. Direction from the commission. regarding reopening issuance of special events permits. Mr. Holmes, we're gonna go, this is our revisiting of this event. We've got it on our calendar, on a professional calendar until such time as we decide to issue special events permits. This is an opportunity for the commission to have additional discussion as it relates to anything that's in place. I will tell the commission that Recreation had a soccer, had their first distance soccer event for younger kids. And it went well. It went well last weekend. They limited the number of kids that were involved, but they had decent participation, and they made sure they set their stuff up so that they could at least start to work towards doing some additional things so that our kids don't find themselves continually stuck inside. And so they had good participation with that. They had roughly 4 teams out, and they were able to work with the kids, and they had continued masking. Any comments or any additional considerations from the commission at this time?
Yeah, I think I don't know. I mean, I think we should be nothing significant change. I mean, I know I believe we had 2 more deaths since the last meeting.
We have.
And right, and we still are seeing new cases coming in. We can't control that event in terms of the number of people from a special event standpoint. And so I think with us opening in phases gradually, what we're doing with the recreation, sports, and not special event, but facility rentals, we can pretty much control those environments. So I want to, from my opinion, I'll just stay with what we currently have based on still getting deaths, we're still getting other things, and we got other facilities closing, like the Atlanta Falcons. They were closed this past weekend with their football game.
I think they're glad they're closed.
So yeah, so it's just a number of different things. So I want to stay with this, what we constantly have. We constantly monitor the situation and see if we get better or not.
Commissioner McCaskill.
Commissioner Borum, in that aspect, and we're revisiting this every 2 weeks, and we also agree that we have to take an emergency out, and we will. So I have to agree that we move forward, keep on the same rapid trail that we're on.
Vice Mayor, Commissioner Campbell, anything?
Well, life is important to me,
Yeah.
and I want to make sure that we have every opportunity to take care of those people, even if some of them don't want to take care of themselves.
Right.
And they said that we don't know if there's going to be another, what is it?
Another wave.
Another wave coming through. So
36 states. I have an uptick at this point.
Yeah.
Anything, Commissioner Campbell?
I'm in total agreement with what's already stated by everyone else.
Okay. Is there a motion by anyone to remain status quo?
I'll make the motion that remains status quo.
Second.
The motion on the floor in a second. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Questions called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item number 8, adopt resolution 2020 R97 authorizing the development of a new public works facility. Mr. Griffin.
Thank you, Mayor.
Just one second. You read the caption. We got a caption.
I'll read the caption at this time. A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Palatka authorizing the development of a new public works complex.
So
Mr. Griffith, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioners, we've been talking about this for some time. In your packets, there is a detailed summary of the design criteria or building program of what we're proposing to construct. We have gone through a number of sites, and at this time we are proposing a parcel of city-owned land at the intersection of PRC Way and the old airport runway that's been abandoned off of Kaylarkin Drive. The parcel that we're looking at is in excess of 8 acres, which would be double what we're currently using. We are proposing a 22,000 square foot building that is about 4,000 heated and cooled, with the balance being warehouse and garage space. For context, we currently have a little over 11,000 total square foot at 1010 Ocean Street and about 2,187 square feet heated and cooled. I think you're all very familiar with our existing facilities. We do have a debt service payment budgeted this year. I would like to point out to you that the estimates that have been developed based upon this building program range anywhere from 2.4 million to 3.8. Unfortunately, we have only budgeted 130,000, and with the help of Ms. Becker, that basically translates to, actually, Ms. Becker, I don't have that number in front of me. Do you recall what that 130 translated to 4.2% at 25 years?
Yes, that was 2 million. And that was based upon an earlier estimate with, something different. However, that is at 25 years.
Okay. I will also point out that we're not too concerned about making a decision on if the debt service payment is adequate or not yet. All we're asking for tonight is approval to move forward with 3 items. The first is requesting the Federal Aviation Administration release of the property. I will also state that the property was already identified for release in the airport master plan. So this is consistent with your existing plan for the airport. The second item is to pursue financing for the construction of the Public Works facility. And we already do have someone under contract for that. And then the third is to go ahead and advertise a design build solicitation. Ultimately, we would come back to the commission with the financing terms and a contract for the design and construction of the facility. Are there any questions?
I guess the biggest question I have is looking at the number on the proposal. I know we've had multiple discussions about facility itself and about the use of the metal, using a metal building as opposed to traditional construction. Brick and mortar. So I guess when we run the numbers that we've discussed previously as it relates to, I think buildings of similar size, we find ourselves in a different range. Do you think this project can be done so besides the 22,000 square foot building, is there something else? I know we've got to have the washout facilities, all the other things, your landscaping, your site development, all those things in place. What drives our cost up above the 1.5 that we talked about previously?
So there are 2 items that really drive the cost up. One is site development costs, which could be scaled. The second is just the size of the structure. We're looking at doubling the amount of warehouse and garage space that we have. My opinion on this would be that we need to move towards the design build solicitation to see what opportunities we may have in regards to the method of construction, the finishes, and or do we phase some of the building development? Can we get by with 5,000 less square foot in warehouse now and add it on in 10 years when it's needed? Does that answer your question, Mayor?
Yes. So, any other questions from the commission at this time?
No, I'm happy to see that we found a piece of property that will be away from the residential sections of town, except when the trucks go in to do what they, and the folks go in to do what they need to do. And I would like to see it move forward, in getting it done, because they do need a new facility. We do need a new facility.
And this was, we approved, well, I guess we approved the 1.5 to at least go and explore 1.5, but this is 2.4?
Well, the 1.5 was for an existing property.
Okay.
Where we had a business close. And so and I remember you making the motion on that.
Yeah.
But that 1.5 was to look at that existing property. It was listed at that number. And so we were looking at an opportunity to bid on it, but it still had some upgrades that needed to be done as well. And so I think what this does a bit differently, and I can truly say that over the course of the years, we talked about creating a new quality of life, work quality for our employees, but also, just as Vice Mayor said, getting out of the residential community where we once had the city dump and some other things, having public works at the end of 10th Street and 11th Street. I think this is an opportunity for us to be able to have all the necessary tools in place, to have connectivity along with getting rid of mold issues and any other thing that's out there, and having a hodgepodge of facilities in place. But it also, I think more than anything else, it doesn't require us to take any property off the tax roll.
Right.
It puts us in a position so that we can start to advance the community and fulfill the promises that we made to our employees, as far as making sure that we provide them with adequate working opportunities so that they can maximize efficiencies. And I think that in having this, it brings new life to equipment, and it's going to be savings. Although we would spend roughly $2 million. Let's use that as a number. We would find ourselves in a situation where now the advances in technology, the advances in facilities, they would all change and they would all benefit us as a whole. And so I think definitely the time is far spent, and I appreciate Mr. Griffin getting this on the agenda so that we can start to pull the trigger on this. And so that's just my thought. I know Commissioner McCaskill, you had something before.
I didn't.
Okay.
I'd like to see us move forward with it. I think it's past time for it, and because that facility we've been talking about for a while, and we won't have to buy property. They were wise enough to find something that won't come off the tax roll, and I think we need to. I make the motion that we let them look into it. And
right, absolutely. I mean, I'm all for them looking into it. I mean, you say we can we phase it in, and is there a possibility that other can we like consolidate with some other departments, maybe looking to see if there's anybody else can go into that facility? Let me
so that we can be clear.
Okay.
Vice Mayor made a motion, and I want to clarify. Your motion is your motion to accept staff's recommendation?
Yeah.
Is there a specific funding level that you're looking to accept that recommendation at?
Well, I hadn't thought about the need is so great. I think once we start looking into it, they'll bring back, unless one of you all want to meet.
Staff recommendation was three tiered. There are three things that have to be done. And so Mr. Griffin, so you can state those three things so that
one is
Vice Mayor understands what the three items are that you requested, your authorization. State your three prongs that you need: your authorization for your property, the airport authority to release it.
Pursue financing.
You're on mute. Yes, sir. So everything is included in the resolution. It gives us authorization to move forward with the release of the property from the airfield, as well as seeking financing proposals. We wouldn't be entering into any agreement. That would come back to you, as well as advertising the design build solicitation. If what I'm hearing from you is you would like us to, when we prepare this design build solicitation, take into account a phased approach and write it into the design criteria so that when we bring the proposals back for you, you may have an option for constructing the facility at a lesser amount, which is closer to what we originally budgeted. Is that correct?
Yes, that's good.
So
that can be done.
So is that your motion, Vice
That's
Mayor?
my motion.
The motion is to accept staff's recommendation at closer to the $2 million budgeted amount.
And Mayor,
Second.
after we vote.
So there's a motion on the floor and a second. Is there anyone here for public hearing? If you're here for public hearing, the number is 386-329-0100, extension 0. If you're here in person, please come forward to the podium, give your name and address. Is there anyone here for public hearing, or you can use the YouTube chat? Do we have anything in the chat? Seeing nothing in the chat, close public hearing. If the phone rings, no, we're closed. Is there any additional conversation from the commission or any discussion at this point? We're in discussion.
Question.
Question been called.
Questions called. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. She's quick today.
Yeah.
So it's been a long time to get to this step, but I'm glad we're here. We've looked through several options, but I'm encouraged that we are going to move forward at this time.
I want my name on the building.
I
want my name on the building. I'll get it built. I'll be gone.
And so,
No, it's
and so again, thank you, Mr. Griffin. Moving forward to item number 9, emergency adopt resolution 2020 R88 authorizing the purchase and installation of telecommunications system, audio, video upgrades for city facilities and accepting proposals from Dynamic Services and Inspire Technology in North Florida to purchase an installation for total project cost not to exceed $200,000. At this time, Mr. Holmes, I will turn it over to you.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I appreciate that. I respectfully request that the commission consider taking this item up as an emergency item. If you'd like justification, I'm happy to provide same.
Yes, sir. Can you go ahead and do that?
As the commission is probably aware, there is a limited window within which the city is able to attempt to access the CARES funds that have been allocated to the city by the county through the state and federal governments. That window, to cut to the chase, requires that we have the money spent, the product obtained and installed by December 1 of this year, which, as you know, is approaching rapidly. Due to a number of factors, including the fact that the $3 million, the $500,000 that we now believe that the city has access to was only allocated to the city in the very recent weeks, a couple of weeks actually. We've had to scramble to put a viable and doable list of expenses and products and services together that we believe will be reimbursable. And in order for us to be able to have any chance of moving forward and getting these items purchased and installed, we basically do not have time to wait for the next commission meeting. So for that reason, I'm asking that this be placed on the agenda as an emergency item.
I'll entertain a motion to take this item as emergency. There's a motion on the floor by Vice Mayor Brown.
Second.
Second by Commissioner McCaskill. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously.
So with that, if I could, Mr. Mayor, staff has been meeting since the day literally that we've been meeting since the CARES funding was in essence approved. You know, there's been a series of stages, and I know that many of you have been updated and you've watched various accounts of how this process has worked. The county was allocated about $13 million. Cities of our size were not directly allocated any money by the federal government or the state government, but instead the county was allocated about $13 million, and it was charged with the responsibility of essentially distributing that money. The county first was given $3 million plus or minus by actually a little bit plus by the state, and that money is on hand. The difference between the $3 million and the $13 million, they were going to have to seek after it was spent, but it was allocated to them. So the county first adopted a program of trying or attempting to or authorizing the expenditure of that $3 million to individual businesses. At some point, it was clear that they weren't going to have individual businesses who qualified and who would basically take all of that $3 million. And so a couple of weeks ago, they allocated $500,000 to the city, provided we could come up with reimbursable expenses that would qualify and are eligible for reimbursement under the CARES Act. Even before that had occurred, our staff, your staff, had begun attempting to isolate items and things that we thought were eligible expenses and that would be the most useful and the most effective for the city as we deal with the effects of the pandemic. So when the $500,000 was allocated, and actually after consulting with some of the county people, some of our own resources, and some of our vendors, the staff arrived at what we consider to be a short list, a list of I think we'd say most important and critical items that we believe are reimbursable from the funds that are at issue. Some of those items are items like reimbursement for personnel expenses already incurred. Some of those items are reimbursement for personal protective equipment already purchased. And there are some other items that basically we are seeking reimbursement for that we've already spent. Some of the items we haven't yet spent, but if we're going to have any chance of buying these items and having them reimbursed by CARES, we have to move now. So the two biggest, most significant, most impactful, and most necessary items that have not already been spent, that we believe could be eligible and will be eligible under the CARES funding, are those items that you see in this resolution. One is a telecommunications system, and two is upgrades to the meeting facility so that we can better accommodate attendance, what we might call virtual attendance. I think some of the difficulties you've had tonight, we've had from the beginning in attempting to receive input from the citizenry on a virtual basis, in allowing the citizenry to comment, and allowing the citizenry to effectively participate in meetings have been very apparent tonight. And it's our hope that with the telecommunications system, as well as the upgrades to the video audio system in the commission room, we can create a virtual environment that allows us to actually be effective. I understand that the governor has indicated that we will go live as of November 1 with all of our meetings, but as the mayor knows and as the city attorney knows, under our public meeting law, it is still permissible for one or more members of a board to appear virtually at a board meeting, so long as a quorum of the board is present. In addition, there's no prohibition with the public attending and participating in a virtual means. And as we move forward with this pandemic, I noted there were 5,500 more cases today in Florida, I think 57 more deaths. And I understand there are a lot of optimistic predictions about when we'll be basically out of this cloud, or out from under this cloud. But again, I think that what we've all come to understand is that what's most known about this pandemic is that it's unknown, it's uncertain. So we believe that this would prepare us to move forward in the future, not just for this, but for future events that might require more virtual attendance. So for that reason, we've put together a package. We've dealt with our consultants, we've dealt with our vendors, We've looked at and consulted the contracts that we could piggyback off of in order to meet our procurement requirements without having to spend the time of going out for a new bid. And the proposal that's before you is the proposal that staff has recommended. I can go a little bit further and then I'll stop and you can ask specific questions of myself or Mr. Becker.
Stop right there for a second. You need
Okay.
anything?
No, I've been briefed on it already, and I'm well aware.
So anything else from the commission at this time? Any questions as it pertains to what's in place? I think looking at in lieu of what happened today, it's a prime example of the need and the necessity for what we've got in order to be able to serve the public, to minimize opportunities for folks that have to leave their house to be served in the correct manner, considering we have an elderly population. With all those things in place, I think it's very appropriate for us to move forward with these recommendations that you have before us. I know you guys have worked really hard on getting this stuff together so that there's an opportunity for us to at least try to hit that 35-day window that we have left. And so I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Motion to approve.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
We're now open the floor up for public comment. Is there anyone here for public comment? Again, on the chat, you got YouTube chat, you got 386-329-0100, extension 0, or you can come forward to the podium at this time. Is there anyone here for public comment? Ms. Robinson, do we have anything on the YouTube chat?
Nothing on the chat, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. We'll now close public comment. Is there any further discussion from the commission? Questions called. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And also I want to thank Inspire Technology for saving us with our little dilemma today, as well as working closely with us to get us out of 1985 and at least into 2010. So we appreciate you in helping us as we start to try to move forward with some technology upgrades. Next on the agenda is a public hearing, ordinance annexing, amending the future land use map for Putnam County Industrial to City of Palatka Commercial, rezoning 146 Comfort Road, Palatka, Florida, from County Industrial Heavy to City Palatka Neighborhood Commercial District C1A, case PB 20-2. The applicant, Rural Healthcare Incorporated. First reading. Item A is the annexation ordinance, first reading. B is the Flume ordinance 20.07 for adoption. And C is rezoning ordinance 20.08, first reading. Item A is up first, annexation ordinance. Will you please read the caption?
An ordinance of the city of Palatka, Florida, annexing into the corporate limits of the city of Palatka, Florida, certain adjacent territory identified as 146 Comfort Road, Palatka, Florida, 32177. Part of lot 71, Stinwell Suburban Farm, map book 2, page 39, official records 1073, page 659, map sheet 37E, public records of Putnam County, Florida, contiguous to the boundaries of the city of Palatka and providing for an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor in a second. Just for the record, we've got Joe Kumeyer. I guess I'm butchering your name. Who's present for the applicant. Mr. Mibbs, do we have anything else on this? Mr. Mibbs, is there anything else you want to add on this? Seeing none, we'll go ahead. The floor for public hearing. Is there anyone here?
I've got to do a presentation now. We'll continue. Okay. Take care. Bye. Let me bring myself in. Yes, I guess it's my turn.
Yeah, it's your turn.
Okay, let me bring up the PowerPoint. Let me see if I can properly share this screen with you. Let's see. I've got that. Give me just a moment. Share screen. Okay, I go to PowerPoint. All right, can you see my PowerPoint presentation?
Can't see it, but we can hear you.
Oh, share the screen. I may have to get technical assistance in here for a second. Hold on.
It's okay.
Slideshow.
Technical assistance.
Is the slide showing?
Give me, better yet, for the purposes of our sparse, give me the verbal synopsis.
Okay, well, I will. The verbal synopsis is that we have we have a request for annexation, future land use. Oh, Sonny's to the rescue. Hold on. I thought I had it. I thought I hit the share screen. Give me just a moment here.
Keep moving. Annexation, you're on part A, annexation. Just work it. Let's go ahead and continue on with your verbal. Never mind. Don't listen to me.
So, hold on. I'm getting there.
I'm loud and clear.
Okay, well, while technical is trying to get me up and running, I'll just tell you, we have an annexation. It's several acre property. It meets all the annexation criteria. Are they seeing this now?
Mayor, can you see it now?
I see it. I see it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you both. All right, so it's by Rural Healthcare Inc. It's AZA Health as well. And I just want to give a shout out to the applicant's agent, Joe Keymeyer. Joe was in on Zoom earlier, and I think he's here. He's available for any questions, but he was a pleasure to work with on this, and we got this application together, you know, and it's for annexation, related future land use amendment, and related rezoning. And the reason for this really is that they're not able to expand under, this is at Comfort Road and Comfort Road. It's in the Crystal Cove area, just east of the railroad tracks, east of US 17. Under the county existing land use and zoning, this office use is a non-conforming use, so they can't expand it. So the applicant wants to do a 3,000 plus or so square foot expansion, and also wants full city water and sewer. So that's really the short story on it. The yellow is showing the existing county industrial and industrial heavy zoning, and then proposed city commercial and city C1A neighborhood commercial district. That's the least intense commercial district. I think it's a good suggestion. Meets the various annexation requirements, compactness, contiguity, future land use amendments. It's definitely consistent with the comprehensive plan. Does not conflict. I pointed out several elements, policies, does not conflict with other plan elements. Commercial land use includes offices, of course, and again, it's non-conforming, and that's a lot of what's bringing them here. I'd like to point out that the C1A zoning is, I think, particularly complementary to the future RV park, the approved PUD that you all approved, just to the east, and to the Crystal Cove Marina Complex, in addition to the Crystal Cove residential subdivision that's north of the complex. So these are good changes. Public facilities element, can't distribute, you can't do that. They can't get the city water unless they're, annexation, unless they're annexed. Future services, reviewed with the public works director and the fire chief and police chief as well. No issues with city services there. A little bit on the suitability of the land. This property was developed about 23 years ago with a almost 13,000 square foot office building that was for then the Florida Furniture, went on to Beck Automotive. And it's a key point is that although these are native wetlands there, that's history as far as this site go. The site was almost entirely cleared, and fill was added to enable site development. It is, the applicant is well aware, I'm sure he's certainly read this from this report, additional development will require modification of the stormwater permits for the property. Here's a nice aerial, nice Google Earth shot.
You're familiar with the property?
Yep, there we are. So it's, I think it's a good annexation. Does not further urban sprawl, meets all those tests. I will not go through the rezoning analysis, the points that the code requires you look at, and they're on the report and they're on this PowerPoint, are almost as many points as there are letters in the alphabet. It's an area of the code that could use a little bit of tightening up, but it's clear to me in the analysis presented that it's consistent with the comprehensive plan, it's compatible with the neighborhood, meets all the applicable requirements, and I will spare you all those details, and I figure that's probably okay with you unless you have any questions about any of them.
It's okay with us. You supplied it to us in our book. We have it. We've had an opportunity to review it. Is there anything you want to add outside of what you previously supplied to us?
No, just recommend by separate motions, the adoption of the ordinances that are before you.
Thank
One
you.
for annexation, that's first reading of 2. The next reading will be at your next city commission meeting, November 5th. The small scale land use amendment mercifully is only 1 reading of ordinance, and the rezoning is 2 readings.
All right.
That's my presentation. Again, thanks to Joe Keymeyer, he's great to work with, and he's available for questions, as am I.
All right, thank you. Anything, Mr. Keymeyer?
No, Dean covered it really well, and I look forward to moving forward with the addition for the owner, Asa Health, on this property.
All right, and just for the record, Asa Health is a non-profit organization, so this wouldn't be property that we'd be adding to the tax roll, correct?
That I do not know. I know that they are Rural Health Incorporated, and I know they do, I believe, enjoy some tax exempt status, but they will be paying for utilities moving forward.
They'll be paying. They'll have city water and sewer if the city so inclined, if the commission so inclined, but they have a tax exempt status. And they would pay fire assessment. So thank you. We'll now open the floor for public hearings. Anyone here for public hearing as relates to annexation ordinance? Seeing no one, close public hearing. Is there any further discussion from the commission? Questions called, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Moving on to future land use amendment ordinance 20.07. Caption, please.
An ordinance of the city of Palatka, Florida, providing that the future land use map of the adopted comprehensive plan be amended with respect to the following parcel of land less than 10 acres in size from Putnam County Industrial to the city of Palatka Commercial for the following property: 146 Comfort Road, part of Lot 71, Stinwell Suburban Farms, map book 2, page 39, official records book 1073, page 659, map sheet 37E, providing for severability and providing for incentive.
So moved. Second.
Motion on the floor in a second. We're now open the floor for public hearing. If anyone here for public hearing, the number is 386-329-0100, extension 0, YouTube chat, or you can come forward at this time. Ms. Robinson, is there anything in the chat?
No, Mayor, not at this time.
Seeing nothing in the chat, we'll close public hearing. Is there any further discussion from the commission?
Question.
Questions called, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Moving on, rezoning ordinance 20.08.
20-08, an ordinance of the city of Palatka, Florida, providing that the official zoning map of the city of Palatka, Florida be amended from Putnam County Industrial Heavy to City of Palatka Neighborhood Commercial District C1A for the following property: 146 Comfort Road, part of Lot 71, Stinwell Suburban Farms, map book 2, page 39, official records 1073, page 659, map sheet 37E, providing for severability and providing the effective date.
So moved.
Motion on the floor by Commissioner McCaskill. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Brown. Out on the floor for public hearing. Set instructions.
Stop sharing.
Is there anyone here for public hearing? Do we have anything in the YouTube chat?
Not at this time.
Seeing nothing in the chat, we'll close public hearing. Is there any further discussion from the commission?
Question.
Questions called, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Moving on to city manager and administrative reports. For the sake of time, we will go with the city manager. And if there's anything the staff needs to report on, you can chime in.
Mayor, we'll keep it brief. We're moving forward with some staff hires, including the fire chief search, the replacement of the planning assistant, and also looking for a code enforcement officer, as well as a planning director. We do have things moving in all those directions. Otherwise, the matters you covered tonight have been the matters that we've been primarily working on since our last meeting, and we appreciate your attention to them. So if you have specific questions about anything, be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'll keep it brief tonight.
Any questions from the commission?
No.
Okay.
I just want to tell you all, y'all need to look up that green book because more historical stuff is coming up and it's rules and regulations from Tallahassee.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Anything else from any of our department heads? Council, you look like you got something to say. That was a joke. Anybody got anything? Hey, I've got something. Mr. Mills, this is your last meeting with us. And I cut you off on your 47-minute presentation.
I tried to keep it short.
But I want to tell you that on behalf of the city of Palatka and the city commission, as well as the staff here, we appreciate you and the time that you spent with us as the interim planning director. We wish you the best of luck on any future endeavors. And we just, again, we thank you for all that you've done here at the city of Palatka. We want to give you a round of applause and just let you know that how much we appreciate it. And so Dean has been officially retired and unretired for what, about a year here?
2 years ago, retired from Gainesville, I thought. Yeah.
You've been hanging with us for about a year, right?
Yeah, July 22nd, 2019, a little over a year.
So we appreciate it. You thought you were coming in for a few days and you stuck with us for a year, but we appreciate you. Thanks again.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun. It's really it's been good, and I really appreciate it.
And so Dean is also the unofficial director of social distancing, so that everyone knows.
I gave out masks. I did everything I could.
Thank you. Commission comments at this time. Commissioner McCaskill.
None this time, Mayor, thanks.
Vice Mayor.
Nope, I'm gonna let you buy this time.
Really?
Yep.
Commissioner Campbell.
I have nothing tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
No, Vice Mayor, you run out of meetings to keep commenting.
That's okay. I'll come back and comment when I'm done.
You gotta sit by this kitchen then.
That's all right. The two of us will sit back there and elbow each other so we'll see
Commissioner
who's
Moore.
gonna come in first.
All right, no comments tonight.
And I'm last on the list. I got a couple things I want to do. Somebody had a birthday today by the name of Logan Becker, our finance director. We want to say happy birthday to Ms. Becker. So let's give Ms. Becker a round of applause for her birthday.
Aw, thank you, Mayor.
Mayor, I might say one more.
Go ahead.
I just want to give a shout out to my son. His birthday is today too. So Zachary, he's officially 21 years old. And I just want to, thank you for being the young man that he is. And he was raised by great parents. So. And happy birthday to you too, Logan. Thanks. That's all I have.
Give it up to Zach. Give it up to Zach. So Larry Beaton, if you're watching, our prayers are with you, and we hope you get well soon. That's our historian for the city of Palatka. We just want to make sure, Mr. Beaton, that we let you know that you are definitely in our prayers, and we hope that you get better. And so, again, we want to give our prayers to Mr. Beaton. Additionally, I want us to make sure that in our community, as citizens as a whole, that we realize that the pandemic in many places across this country has created greater incidences of violent crime, greater incidences of really tragic events taking place, and that people all across are having to adjust behaviors. And in some cases, we're seeing an uptick in crime and things of that nature. I had an opportunity to talk to Chief Shaw. We've had a few murders in this community and some violent crimes in this community. And our heart goes out to all the families who've been affected by these crimes within the community, but also we want to make sure that as a community that we begin to cope together, and that we come together and become more cohesive during this time where there's so much uncertainty and so many things that are abnormal. And so there's some psychological incidences that occur. There's some tools out there and some helpful hints that will help you cope. And Chief is going to put together a bit of a workshop to kind of help people talk through some of these things. And we're going to assist him in doing a virtual program, which will allow us to be able to truly have some tools in our toolbox, which will allow us to work through the pandemic and through some of these things that are out there. We've got a number of services and a number of service providers that that are present within our community who can help as well. And we just want to make sure that we give everyone a virtual, kind of a virtual lesson or a virtual Excel so that you will know exactly what's there and how we can better serve our community, how we can protect our citizens, and how we can watch our neighborhoods. And so we all want to come together for the purposes of making sure that we stamp out violent crime in our community and that we stamp out this uptick of the virus as well as violent crime during this time period. So Chief, if you got any parting words on it, we'll close out.
No, sir, Mayor, thank you very much. I think that was very well said.
He's like, so thank you and good night is kind of what Chief said. But again, we just appreciate everything that goes on and the work of the Palatka Police Department as well. But we're just going to continually work forward and move forward in this community. So our prayers are out with everybody. Remember, October is Breast Cancer Month and Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Continually wear your pink. Make sure we go out and we support the events pertaining to breast cancer awareness as well as domestic violence awareness. And so with that, we are closed. If I enter, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion.